Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad Imran. I hope you're fine. We will discuss today stanza forms in English poetry. So formally, this will be our lecture number 4 in the subject poetry. The focus of this lecture is to define and know about stanza and the main types of stanza. So let's start our lecture. Stanza. A stanza may be defined as a group of lines of poetry forming a unit in themselves. So a stanza is just like a paragraph. As a paragraph is a group of sentences, this unity and conveys a single idea. In the same way, we have a stanza, which is a group of lines used in poetry. So then how can we differentiate a stanza from a paragraph? Thus, a stanza is used in poetry while a paragraph is used in prose. Thus, the stanza is the unit of organization in poetry, just as the paragraph in the prose. So, a prose is organized through units and each unit is called a paragraph. So, we have here also a poem. A poem is organized through several units and each unit is called a stanza. Right? So stanza then is the unit of a poem. Similarly, as a paragraph is the unit of a prose. So in many cases, the stanza composing a poem are quite irregular, alike in length and structure. Sometimes we can have regular stanza and sometimes we can have irregular stanza. Irregular stanzas are those stanzas which varies in their structure as well as in their length. By length we mean that sometimes a stanza, for example, we have one poem and in one poem we have 4 stanza and one stanza has 3 lines while other stanza has 4 lines, while the third stanza has 5 lines, while the fourth stanza has 6 lines. So in this poem each stanza varies from another one. And what about structure? By structure we mean that the rhyming scheme of each stanza would be different. For example, in stanza 1 we have line 1 and line 2 they rhyme. Line 3 and line 4 they rhyme. While in the second stanza we will see that line 1 will not rhyme with line 2. It may rhyme with line 3. And similarly that line 2 will not rhyme with line 1. It may rhyme with line 4. So there'll be like a variation in structure and there will be variation in length. So when a stanza has, when inside a poem or when a poem is composed of 4 or 5 stanza and each stanza is different in length and structure, such kind of stanza is called irregular. Then what is a regular stanza? A regular stanza is quite opposite of irregular one. A regular stanza, we have the same length and we have the same structure. By same length, we mean that in one stanza we will have 4 lines, for example. In second we will have 4. In third we will have 4. In fourth we will have 4 lines. Or if in the first stanza we have 5 lines, in the second we will have 5, in the third we will have 5, and the fourth we will have 5 lines. Similarly, if stanza first is structured with a rhyme A, B and C, D, the second will be also A, B and C, D. The third will be also A, B and C, D. So then such kind of stanzas are called regular stanza. So this is the difference between regular stanza and irregular stanza. So a poem maybe consist of regular stanza or maybe consist of irregular stanzas. As in Wordsworth, ode on intimation of immortality and Tennyson mode, but as a rule, a poem is built up of unit or section strictly identical in form. Regular stanzas are commonly defined by the number of their lines and arrangement of their rhymes, which bind these lines together. The stanza form of English poetry are so numerous and varied that no complete study can be attempted here, but the following may be mentioned as some of the best known example of stanza form in English. It means that we have numerous and varied form of stanzas which are found in English poetry. So it's not possible that we discuss all the types, all forms of stanza which are found in English poetry. That's why we will discuss only the best known example of stanza form which are found in English poetry. So let's discuss what are some of the best known example of stanza form in English poetry. First, we will discuss the Chaucerian stanza or rhyme royal. So there are two names. You can call it rhyme royal or you can call it the Chaucerian stanza. Why do we call it Chaucerian stanza? Because such form of stanza was for the first time used by Geoffrey Chaucer. Now, the Chaucerian stanza is so called because it was first used in English by Chaucer, the father of English poetry. Most probably he borrowed it from France because he visited France and there was influence of French poetry on his poetry. So that's why that probably that he borrowed this form of stanza which are found in English poetry from France. Now it is also called rhyme royal because it was used by King James I of Scotland in the 15th century for his well-known poem King's Quair. So it is called royal. It is called rhyme royal because it was first used by the king, and the name of the king was James I, who was the king of Scotland in the 15th century. Structure of Chaucerian stanza. How to structure such kind of stanza? The Chaucerian stanza is a stanza of 7 iambic pentameter lines. It means that each stanza will consist of 7 lines, and in each line we will have 5 feet and 10 syllables, and these syllables will be regularly structured as unstressed and stressed, unstressed and stressed, unstressed and stressed, unstressed and stressed, because iamb means that the rhythm or rhythmical pattern will be unstressed and stressed, unstressed and stress. And how many syllables will be there? 10 syllables. And how many feet will be there? 5 feet, because we call it iambic pentameter. Penta means 5. Meter will be iamb. Iamb means unstressed and stress. So Chaucerian stanza consists of 7 lines. For example, if there are 3 stanza, so every stanza will have 7 lines, and each line will have 5 feet, and each line will have 10 syllable, because in 5 feet we will have 10 syllable. That's why we call it then iambic pentameter. Penta mean 5, iamb mean unstressed and stress, and 7 mean 7. So 7 lines and iambic pentameter. In this stanza, the first line rhymes with the third, the second one with the fourth and fifth, and the last 2 lines rhyme together, thus forming a couplet. Now you can see here the structure of this stanza now. In this stanza, the first line rhymes with the third, right? And you will see that if, for example, in a poem we have Chaucerian stanza, so in each stanza, the first line will rhyme with the third one, and the second with the fourth and fifth, and the last 2 lines rhyme together, thus forming a couplet. What is a couplet? When 2 lines rhyme together. The rhyme scheme is A B B C C. So it means that line 1 will rhyme line 3, line 2 will rhyme with line number 4 and 5, and line number 6 and 7 will rhyme together. So we have 7 lines here. The stanza is particularly suited for narrative verse, and Chaucer used it for several stories in the Canterbury Tale. Shakespeare used it for his Rape of Lucrece, and in Victorian age it was used by William Morris for his Earthly Paradise. Here is example of the Chaucerian stanza. Let's see what is the example of Chaucerian stanza. So here is the example of Chaucerian stanza. Line number 1, it rhymes with line number 3, and line number 2 rhyme with line number 4 and line number 5. And line number 6 and 7, these 2 lines rhyme together. So die and I, in age, stage and stage. So line number 2, it rhymes with line number 4 and 5. And then prize and lies, line number 6 and line number 7, these 2 lines rhyme together. So you can put here A, die, you can put here B, age, and you can put here again A, I. And then you can put here B, stage, you can put here B, stage. And then you can put C, prize, and you can put here C, lies. The second well-known form of stanza which is used in English poetry is known as Ottava Rhyma. This stanza form was first used in England in the early 16th century by Sir Thomas Watt. He frequently went to Italy on diplomatic mission, and it was from there that he introduced this stanza. So you see that Chaucer, he borrowed from France, and here Thomas Watt, he brought it from Italy. So he introduced this stanza form into England. Like the Chaucerian stanza, it is also well suited for narrative purpose. So Chaucerian stanza is also well suited for narrative purpose, and this one is also. It has also been used for satiric purposes. Shelley used it for his The Witch of Atlas, Keats for his The Port of Basel, and Byron for his Don John. Here we have the structure of Ottava Rhyma stanza. How to structure this type of stanza? Ottava Rhyma is a stanza of 8 iambic pentameter lines. So there will be 8 lines. In the previous we learned that there were 7 lines. And in this form of stanza there will be 8 lines, and each line will structure as iambic pentameter. Penta means that there will be 5 feet and 10 syllable, and each foot will be structured as unstressed and stressed, unstressed and stressed. The difference is that Chaucerian stanza, it has 7 lines, while this stanza has 8 lines, and otherwise the same structure. Now the first line rhyme with the third and fifth, and the second with the fourth and sixth, and the last 2 lines rhyme together and thus form a couplet. In other words, the stanza consists of 6 lines rhyming alternately with a couplet at the end. So the rhyme scheme of the stanza is AB, AB, AB and C, C. So we have then 8 lines in this type of stanza. So line 1 will rhyme with line 3, and line 2 will rhyme with line 4. And similarly, we have then line number 5 and 6. So line 5 will rhyme with line number 1, and line number 6 will rhyme line number 2. And then we have last, that is couplet C, C. Now here we have the example of Ottava Rhyma, and this example is taken from Byron Don John. Now you can see that this stanza consists of 8 lines. We can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. So line number 1 apart is rhymed with line number 3 marked. So A and 3, or line number 1 is rhymed with line number 3. Line number 2 range, it is rhymed with line number 4 exchange. Similarly, line number 5 heart, it is rhymed with line number 1 apart. And line number 6, that is strange. It is rhymed with line number 2, range. And line number 7, one, is rhymed with line number 8, undone. So you can see here that you can put here A, apart, you can put here B, range. You can put here A, mart, you can put here B, exchange. Similarly, you can put here A, heart, and you can put here B, strange. And then you can have C and C. Spenserian stanza. This form of stanza is very popular in English poetry. The stanza is called Spenserian stanza because it was for the first time used by Spenser in his very popular epic poem, The Fairy Queen. So let's discuss it. The stanza is so called because it was first used by the poet Spenser for his romantic epic, The Fairy Queen. It is a stanza consisting of 8 iambic pentameter lines and Alexandrine, or a line of 12 syllables at the end. So it means that overall in this stanza there will be 9 lines. The first 8 lines will be iambic pentameter. It means that the first 8 lines, in each line there will be 10 syllables and 5 feet, and the rhythmic pattern will be unstressed and stress. While the last line, that is called Alexandrine, it will consist of 12 syllables. So 12 syllables, it means that there will be 6 feet. First 8 lines, there will be 5 feet and 10 syllables, and in the last line, there will be 6 feet and 12 syllables. So this is the structure of Spenserian stanza. Now, the first line rhymes with the third, the second, fourth, fifth, and 7 lines rhyme together, and the sixth line rhymes with the 8th one and the 9. So the rhyme scheme is A, B, B, C, B, C, and then we have C. So it means that line 1 will rhyme with line number 3. So you can see here that A, B, B, C, and C. So this is the structure of Spenserian stanza. It is very difficult stanza to handle, for in it one rhyme is repeated 4 times and another 3 times. This naturally puts a 7 strain on the skill and resources of a poet. So the stanza is not very much easy. He must have full command over language. We are talking about Spenser. To find so many words with similar end sound, even then the stanza is admirably suited for a long narrative and descriptive poems as used by Spenser for Fairy Queen. Spenser used it with great success for his Fairy Queen, and ever since poets have frequently used it with more or less success. In early 18th century, James Thomson used it for his Castle of Indolence, and it was used by Byron for his Child's Harold, by Keats for the Eve of Saint Agnes, and Shelley for the Revolt of Islam, and Adonis by Tennyson for the Lotus Eaters. Here we have the example of Spenserian stanza, and it consists of 9 lines, and the first 8 lines have iambic pentameter, and in each line we have 5 feet and 10 syllables. And the last line, which is called Alexandrine, it has 12 syllables and 6 feet. You can see here that line 1, it rhymes with line number 3. Line 2 here, it rhymes with line number 4. And similarly, line number 5, where it rhymes with line number 2 here, and line number 6, that is broke, it rhymes with line number, the last one, that is awake, right? So you can focus this stanza that it has 9 lines, and the first 8 lines iambic pentameter, and in each line, the first 8 line, in each line we have 5 feet 10 syllables, while the last line we have 6 feet and 12 syllables. Here we have another form of stanza that is called the terza rima. The terza rima is an Italian verse form, and it was first used with great success by Italian poet Dante for his monumental epic, The Divine Comedy. In England, it was used with considerable success by Shelley for his Ode to the West Wind, Byron Prophecy of Dante, Browne, The Statue and the Bust, and William Morris, The Defense of Genevieve, are also written in this stanza. Now, the terza rima is simply a group of 3 lines forming a unit. Only a group of 3 lines. In this stanza, first line rhymes with the third, and the second line rhymes with the first, and the third of the following tercet, group of 3 lines. So, in this way that each tercet is linked up with the next, the first with the second, and the second with the third, and so on. So a tercet may be run on the close. So in a run on tercet, the sense overflow or runs on from one tercet to another. On the other hand, the closed variety, each tercet form a complete sentence. Both these types have been used in England, but the run on variety has been generally favored. Now here we have the rhyme scheme of terza stanza. The rhyme scheme of any 2 tercets would be A, B, A and B, C, B, and so on for the following tercets. Right? So this stanza is the composition of 3 lines. First we have A, B, A, and then we have B, C, B. So Shelley Ode to the West Wind provides typical example of terza rima. You can see in this stanza that line number 1, being, is rhymed with line number 3, feeling. So then being will be A, and dead will be B, and feeling will be A. So A, B, A, and then we have read, which will be B, and then we have though, and we don't have such kind of rhyme with the previous one, so then we will put here C. This will be then C, and then we have bed, bed again, that is B. So A, B, A, and then B, C, B, and so on. Right? Now, thank you so much. It is the end of part 1 of this lecture. We will discuss quatrain and couplet and heroic couplet in part 2 of this lecture. So keep watching. Thank you so much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back to the second part of the lecture, that's about stanza forms. In the previous lecture, we discussed some of the well-known forms of stanza in English poetry, and now we will continue from where we left. So we start with quatrain as one of the stanza form in English poetry. So let's discuss what is quatrain. A quatrain is a stanza of 4 iambic lines. So how many lines will be there? There will be 4 lines. A quatrain consists of 4 iambic lines. And these 4 lines will rhyme alternatively. Like line 1 will rhyme with line 3, and line 2 will rhyme with line number 4. But we don't have such kind of strict rules that all the time we will have such kind of structure that line 1 will rhyme with line 3 and line 2 will rhyme with line 4. Sometimes we will have variation, and such kind of variation in quatrain are frequently found. So the first line rhymes with the third and the second with the fourth. However, variation of this rhyme scheme are frequent. We can find variation. Sometime we will find that the first line will rhyme with the second, or sometime we will find that the first line will rhyme with the third. Right? So we can have variation. Similarly, the length of the lines also varies. By length of the line varies, we mean that sometime we can have pentameter, sometimes we can have tetrameter, sometimes we can have hexameter. It means that sometimes a line may have 4 feet, sometimes a line may have 6 feet, sometimes a line may have 8 feet. So this is variation in length. Sometimes we will have the rhyming scheme, variation in rhyming scheme, and sometimes we may have variation in structure or variation in the length of the stanza. So the line may be pentameter, tetrameter, or even shorter. This is okay when we talk about the length of line. So a line in a quatrain may be tetrameter, pentameter, dimeter, or even monometer, right? So variations are there. Sometimes the first and the third lines are longer than the second and the fourth line. So when they are longer, then we will have more feet, or like the feet of the first line would be different than the meter or the feet of the second and third line. So for example, in the first line, we are using a meter, that is pentameter. Then in the second line, we may have the same pentameter. But in the third, we may have hexameter, or we may have a shorter one, that is like a tetrameter, or we can have like dimeter, or we can have like monometer. Most of the ballad in the English language have been written in quatrain, so it is also referred to as ballad stanza. Why do we call it ballad stanza? Because most of the ballad which were produced in English language, that have been written in quatrain. So that's why this stanza form is also referred as ballad stanza. And we have the finest example of ballad. One is of Coleridge, the Ancient Mariner, and one is of the example of Keats, La Belle Dame Sans Mercy. So these are the two poems. Whenever these poems come in your mind, so what comes in mind? Quatrain. And in quatrain, what comes in mind? Ballad. That's why this stanza form, what we call a quatrain, is also referred as ballad stanza. Let's analyze the metrical feet and the meter that is used in this stanza. As we discussed, that quatrain is usually structured in iambic. So this quatrain is also structured in iambic metrical feet. Let's discuss line 1. The sun came up upon the left. So it is iambic metrical feet. So the first foot, the sun, unstressed and stressed, the sun. The second foot, came up, and the third foot, upon, and the fourth foot, the left. So overall, we have here 4 feet and we have 8 syllables. So this is then called iambic tetrameter. The meter is tetra because we have 4 feet and 8 syllables, while the metrical feet is iambic. So the first line of this stanza is written in iambic tetrameter. Let's discuss the second line. Out of the sea came he. So what is the structure of the second line? Second line is again written in iambic metrical feet, but the number of feet are different. How many feet do we have? Out of the sea came he. We have here 3 feet, right? So that's why the second line would be called iambic trimeter. Tri mean 3. So we have 3 meter, 6 syllable, and the rhythmatic pattern is iambic. So the first line, iambic tetrameter. The second line, iambic trimeter. Let's analyze the third line. And he shone bright and on the right. So again, the third line is structured in iambic rhythmatical pattern, but the meter is different again, and the meter is tetra. So the first line is also iambic tetrameter, and the third line is also iambic tetrameter. See, and he, that is 1 foot, shone bright,
that is second foot, and on, that is third foot, the right, that is 4 foot. So we have 4 feet. 4 feet mean that the meter is tetrameter. And the rhythmic pattern is iambic. So iambic tetrameter. Let's analyze the last and fourth line. Went down into the sea. So how many feet do we have? Went on, that is 1 foot. Into, that is second foot. The sea, that is third foot. So we have again 3 feet here. So the rhythmic or metrical feet would be iambic and the meter would be trimeter. So we can call it that it is structure in iambic trimeter. So the stanza consists of 4 lines, right? And there is variation in the length of the line, because the first line it has 4 feet, the second line has 3 feet, the third line has 4 feet, and the fourth line has 3 feet again. So the first line would be called iambic tetrameter, the second iambic trimeter, the third iambic tetrameter, and the fourth iambic trimeter. So this stanza is written in 2 different meter. One is tetrameter and one is trimeter. While the metrical feet is the same, that is iambic metrical feet. In this slide, we will discuss the heroic couplet. Couplet means 2. The heroic couplet consists of 2 iambic pentameter lines rhyming together. So we will have 2 lines in the heroic couplet, and these 2 lines will rhyme together. And the 2 lines will be structured in iambic pentameter. Pentameter means that there will be 5 feet and 10 syllables. And iambic means that the rhythmical pattern would be unstressed and stress. Now it is called heroic because iambic pentameter words rhyme or unrhyme. Now why do we call it the heroic couplet? Because iambic pentameter can be rhyme or it can be unrhyme. So when we say the heroic couplet, so then the 2 lines will rhyme together. And when we say the iambic pentameter, then iambic pentameter may be rhyme or may be unrhyme. Is it clear? Now, it is called heroic couplet. Iambic pentameter words rhyme or unrhyme was first used for epic or heroic poetry. It is an important measure as far as English poetry is concerned. Most of the poetry of the Augustan age, the age of Dryden and Pope 1660 and 1750, is cast in this measure. So most of the poetry in Augustan age is written in this structure. In this structure mean in heroic couplet. So once again, let me repeat it for you, that when we say the heroic couplet, so the 2 lines would rhyme together. And when we say iambic pentameter, so in iambic pentameter, there may be, the 2 lines may be rhyme or may be unrhyme. But in the heroic couplet, the 2 iambic pentameter lines, they rhyme together. Here we have the explanation of the heroic couplet. Each line of the heroic couplet consists of 5 feet or 10 syllables, and the second syllable of each foot is accented. The 2 lines of the couplet rhyme, and the rhyme may be single or double. Though Pope, the ablest practitioners of the verse form, generally use single rhyme. In the middle, there is a pause technically called the caesura. This pause generally falls after the 4th and before the 6th syllable. But variation in the placing of the pause may be skillfully introduced in keeping with the requirements of thoughts and emotions. Now further, there may be variation not only in the placing of the caesura but also in its depth. Sometimes this pause is so slight that it seems there is no pause at all. So this is the explanation of the heroic couplet. Characteristic of the heroic couplet. The chief characteristics of the heroic couplet are well illustrated by the following one. Here we have example of the heroic couplet. Grow note at grow, each alley has a brother, and half the platform just reflect the other. So you can see the heroic couplet, and in each line we have 5 feet and 10 syllable, and the pattern is unstressed and stress. And these two lines rhyme together. You can see brother and other. Now each line of the couplet has 5 feet and the second syllable in each foot is accented. The position of the pause is indicated by the comma. The last syllable of the brother rhyme with the last syllable of other. Kinds of heroic couplet. The heroic couplet may be of two kinds, close or run-on. By close we mean that the sense is completed. By run-on we mean that the sense is shifted to another couplet. In the close couplet, the sense is completed with each couplet. In each couplet, a sense is completed, and in each thus form a complete sentence, a unit in itself. The couplet cited above is of the close variety that we practiced in the previous slide. In the run-on variety, the sense run on from one couplet to another till it is completed. So in run-on couplet, the sense is not completed, it run on to another couplet. Now in this case, the individual couplet does not form a unit, but the unit is formed by a group of couplet which complete the sense, and this large unit is called the verse paragraph. I hope you got it, the point that we have two kinds of couplet. One is called close and one is called run-on. In close couplet, the sense is completed and it's like just like a paragraph. While in run-on couplet, the sense is not completed. The idea or sense is shifted to another couplet and go on until that this the sense is shifted to another couplet until a sense is not completed. So this is like the overall idea behind the two kind of couplet, close couplet and run-on couplet. The use of heroic couplet. The heroic couplet was first used in England by Chaucer, who might have learned it from the French sources. He used this measure for many of the stories in the Canterbury Tale. Spenser used it with great skill for the Mother Hubbard tale. Marlowe too used it with great success for his Hero and Lanter. However, it was in the Augustan age that the heroic couplet came to its own. At the very beginning of the era, poet Waller and Denham showed great skill in the use. The excellence and dignity of rhyme, says Dryden, were never fully known till Mr. Waller taught it. He first made writing easily an art and first showed us to conclude the sense most commonly in the distich. Pope says a tribute to both, and praise the vigor of a line where Denham's strength and Waller's sweetness join. Thank you so much. It was all about stanza and its various types.